Imagine the dim glow of helmet lights flickering against damp stone walls. The air is thick with the acrid smell of coal dust, each breath a struggle against the oppressive weight of darkness. A low rumble vibrates through the ground, and the chilling echo of a distant explosion reverberates in your chest. The earth shakes like a giant stirring in its slumber, and beneath your feet, the world shifts violently. Tonight, we are looking at a story of forced change, grim determination, and stark survival amidst chaos. On that fateful day, January 2nd, 2006, the Sago Mine in West Virginia transformed into a sealed tomb for 13 miners who had descended into the depths of the earth, unaware of the impending disaster. Days of labor had turned the mine into both sanctuary and prison. The miners came from different walks of life, united in their quest for sustenance and purpose. Yet all had dreams that remained tethered to the shadows of the earth. But when the explosion struck, everything changed. As the rumblings faded, silence enveloped the mine, wrapping it in an unsettling stillness. Survivors above held their breath, a heavy uncertainty settling over them like fog. The clock ticked mercilessly, minutes stretched into hours, each fleeting moment a haunting reminder of the fragility of life. Stakes had never been higher, lives hung in the balance, and hope flickered like a candle in a storm. Families gathered, their faces pale with fear, their hearts pounding with the desperate rhythm of a ticking clock. Rumors swirled like the dust that filled the air, each one more chilling than the last. As rescue teams rallied, equipped with tools to breach the mine's shattered entrance, the void of uncertainty weighed heavily. What awaited them within the earth? Could the miners hold on just a little longer? In the bowels of the Sago Mine, challenges loomed larger than life. As oxygen levels dwindled and their conditions grew dire, whispers of survival began to echo as a faint yet determined rallying cry. It's a tale punctuated by grit, tragedy, and an unyielding human spirit. Who would survive? Who would greet dawn with the warmth of safety? And who would remain a ghost in the darkness, lost to the whispers of the deep? This is Trapped, the collapse of the Sago Mine. Chapter 1. The Final Shift, a day like no other. The air hangs heavy in the small mining town of Buchanan, West Virginia. Daybreak cracks through the horizon, revealing a damp grey sky. On the morning of January 2nd, 2006, the chill seeps into every crevice of the miners' worn clothes. They shuffle into Mel's diner, the scent of greasy eggs and burnt coffee enveloping them like a blanket. Laughter cuts through the quiet, filling the room with a full sense of security. "Got your helmet, Nick?" a voice calls out, coated in the warm drawl of a local. Nick, a burly figure with calloused hands, nods absent-mindedly. He takes a sip of coffee that burns his tongue. It's a fleeting comfort. The crew gathers in the diner, sharing jokes and stories, unaware of the treacherous path they are about to tread. They talk about last weekend's football game, about paychecks and bills, ordinary concerns. Each grin masks the fear that lurks just beneath the surface. Outside, the wind howls through the trees, a distant reminder of the cold reality. The men finish their meals, stamp out their cigarettes underfoot, and head toward the mine. Steel-toed boots crunch over gravel as they walk, a rhythmic sound marking the routine of their lives. "Come here, let's make sure we're all set," says Gerald, the foreman, clutching a clipboard. He runs through the list. Each name called brings a nod, a grunt. The tension in the air is palpable but ignored. Destiny awaits below. With the clatter of metal against metal, they gear up and begin their descent. The elevator jolts downward, the metallic clang of the cables echoing around them. Nick clutches the railing, feeling the cold steel bite through his gloves. 3,200 feet. Just another day, he mutters, not quite believing the words. A ripple of laughter responds, but it's hollow. As they reach the bottom, the mine envelops them, darkness pouring in like a thick fog. It's cool down here. The dampness clings to their skin, seeping into their bones. They flick on their headlamps, and the beams of light flicker to life, cutting through the blackness. Shadows dance on the rough-hewn walls, creating the illusion of movement. Deep in the mine, the sound of machinery whirs to life. The sound is a constant hum, laced with the thumping heartbeat of workers. They split into sections, the air thick with the earthy scent of coal dust and the lingering hint of oil. "All right, crew, let's get to it." Gerald's voice rings in the stagnant air. A sense of camaraderie weaves through the group as they fall into their rhythm, a dance of labour and sweat. Hidden beneath their bravado, a gnawing anxiety takes shape. As the day stretches on, beneath layers of rock, the ground starts to tremble. It's subtle at first, just a minor shudder, but the miners notice. They exchange concerned glances, but they swallow their worries. "Probably just a truck up top," one man suggests, shrugging it off. The others nod, but their eyes betray them, searching the dark corners, as if some hidden danger lurks just out of sight. Hours pass. The rhythm of the pickaxes against the coal echoes like thunder in a storm. What should have been a reassuring sound transforms into an ominous drumbeat, echoing their rising unease. Around noon, a stronger quake rattles the walls. Dust falls, tiny droplets of earth cascading down like grey rain. The lights flicker. A few men halt their work, looking at each other wide-eyed. "Gerald," one calls out. "What the hell was that?" Gerald's response comes sharp and stern. "Back to work. It's nothing." But his voice has a tinge of uncertainty, the bravado masking the unease he feels. But the tremors don't stop. Instead, they grow stronger, rattling their sense of safety. The air feels electric, charged with tension. Each shudder pulls at their nerves. Are they just miners, or are they now trapped in a race against time and fate? Then, without warning, comes a deafening roar from above. The entire mine seems to heave, and the lights sputter, faltering under the weight of what's to come. Dust billows through the air, choking them. "Get to the exit," someone screams, panic rising. The order echoes, but in the chaos, the meaning gets lost. Dust blinds them, throats burning. "You can't leave, it's too dangerous," Gerald yells. Yet he knows, deep down, there's no turning back now. Not when the walls are collapsing around them and terror descends. It's impossible to gauge how much time passes amidst the chaos. Is it minutes? Hours? The air grows heavier, thick with regret. Nick stumbles, falling to his knees. Cracks spread like spider webs across the walls, dirt spilling from above, smothering their screams. "Nick, get up!" a voice shouts, but it feels distant, a fading whisper against the roar of mounded debris. The world tilts, then another deafening boom resonates. A massive cable snaps, a cacophony of metal shrieking as it crashes down. The floor quakes, sending tremors through everyone. There's no time left. Just as realization hits, darkness envelops them fully, swallowing the last beam of hope, plunging each man into unimaginable despair. They are trapped, encased in stone and earth, each breath now a heavy reminder of their plight. As silence remains, punctuated only by their ragged breathing, Nick realizes this is no longer the world he knows. The mine has become a tomb, echoing with the lost potential of lives once filled with laughter, camaraderie, and dreams. What happens next? The struggle is just beginning. Before we descend further into the dark, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You won't want to face the rest of this journey alone. And before we continue, drop a comment and tell me where in the world you are watching from tonight. Knowing you are out there, somewhere in the dark, makes this history feel all the more alive. Chapter 2. The Explosion, a Catastrophic Moment. The clock reads 6:27 a.m. Deep underground, the miners of the Sago Mine toil in silence, their breaths mingling with the damp, musty air. They don't hear the distant rumble at first, a mere vibration against the stone walls, as if the earth is shifting in its restless sleep. Then a roar erupts, shaking the foundation of the mine. It's like the crack of thunder, but closer, more personal. Dust rains down, swirling in the flickering beams of their headlamps. The world tilts. Suddenly, everything shifts. "Hold on," screams a foreman, but the words disappear in the chaos. The explosion reverberates. rattling bones and shattering nerves. Support beams splinter under the pressure, like dry twigs in a storm. Hearts race. Panic ignites as men stumble, disoriented. A low, keen wail rises from someone trapped beneath the fallen rock. "Get him out! Get him out!" The shouts blend into a chorus of confusion. The air grows thick with dust, making it hard to breathe. Men cough and choke, their lungs filling with soot. An iron tang coats the back of their throats. They claw at the rubble, desperation clouding reason. "Where's Jimmy?" a voice croaks, muffled by the echo of destruction. Another miner, pale and shaken, brushes dirt from his face. His eyes are wide, terror unfolding behind them. "He was right behind us. Not now," barks the foreman, his voice cracking, a paradox of authority and fear. "We need to get to the exit. Now." A frigid draft sweeps through the tunnels, a reminder of the world beyond. Fresh air feels like a distant dream, suffocated by the weight of their entrapment. Every man knows the dark truth. Once methane ignites, everything changes. They shuffle through the debris-strewn passages, hands trembling. The familiarity of the mine becomes a labyrinth of shadows, its walls looming closer. Nothing feels safe anymore. Each creak of the structure sends shivers down spines. The walls are alive, conspiring against them. "Listen," shouts a miner, halting. He raises an arm, and the movement hangs in the air, a fragile pause. It's gone. The silence that follows is heavy, oppressive. Then they hear it, a low, mournful groan. "It's the mine settling," mutters another, too afraid to admit the unthinkable. A few men exchange glances, the kind that speak volumes. Is it settling, or is it something worse? They push onward, sweat mixing with grime, a glimmer of hope. The main shaft should be just ahead. But as they stumble through the debris, a gut-wrenching sound erupts. Stones shift, mourning the weight they can. No longer bear. "Watch out!" The cry shatters the air as another beam collapses. One miner is pinned. A casual flicker of fate becomes a life-or-death moment. "I can't breathe," he gasps, one arm thrashing beneath the wreckage. "Don't move! Don't move!" The foreman's voice is frantic, but panic grips everyone. They claw at the earth. Each rock they clear feels heavier than the last. They are architects of their own undoing, battling against odds that grow more insurmountable. "Jimmy, please!" The voice is strained, thick with desperation, as another man is drawn into the chaos. "Help me! Don't leave me!" A cry that shatters the very fabric of solidarity they had built. Choking back the rising tide of fear, the foreman wants to scream for silence, but he cannot. "Get!" He swallows hard, the dread filling his throat. "Get to the shaft!" It's a command soaked in urgency, and without thought, they follow him deeper into the darkness. "Keep going!" But the stench of smoke makes them gag. It wraps around their throats, squeezing tighter with every breath. Yet, beneath the terror, there's flickering determination. They clutch instruments like lifelines, hammers, picks, anything they can wield. They drive them into the earth as if it's their only salvation. The vibrations echo, a chilling premonition of despair. After what feels like hours, a rumble hums beneath their feet. It's a monstrous heartbeat. Fear paralyzes them momentarily. "What was that?" someone whispers, too afraid to meet the eyes of the others. "We have to move." The words are frantic, twisted into a menagerie of cries. They scramble, pushing each other forward, hearts pounding like war drums. A moment of clarity pierces through the chaos. The foreman locks eyes with a young miner, a boy really. "Stay close to me." But then, a sickening crack. The tunnel betrays them. New dust cascades down in thick clouds. They shove against the walls, the earth clamoring to consume them. A nightmare in vivid detail unfolds. Their hands bloodied, lips cracked, breaths gasping for air. Feels robust and real against the claustrophobic closeness. "We can't die here." A voice breaks through the fog of fear. It's a rallying cry, the kind that stirs a primal instinct to fight. "We have to survive." With renewed resolve, they push deeper into the mine's dark heart. Suddenly, a faint whimper echoes. Someone cries out from the shadows, pleading to be found. "Help me!" The sound pulls at their hearts like a thread in a tapestry of despair. It could be a trap, someone warns, but the compassion in their eyes betrays them. We can't leave anyone. The tension is suffocating. With each step they take, they do so against the pull of something darker, something beyond the reach of light. And within that darkness, hope flickers faintly. "God, help us," a miner whispers, his voice cracking like the splintered wood around them. And as they reach the source of the cries, reality collides with horror. They see the glimmer of a headlamp illuminating a figure. The shape is twisted, limbs crushed beneath the debris. Unutterable fear sizzles in the air, mingling with the dust. But before they can react, or even understand, the ground shakes violently once more. "Run! Now!" The foreman's voice is drowned out by a deafening roar, the mine protesting against their presence. As they sprint back through that unforgiving maze of stone, every second is a test of survival. Will they make it out alive? Will the darkness claim them before they reach the light? Time slips away, and every heartbeat echoes like a death knell. For even in the face of one overwhelming truth, they are running out of time. And deep down in the belly of the earth, something shifts once more, a promise of horror yet to come. Chapter 3. First Responses. The Race Against Time. The news spreads quickly across the small town of Tallmansville. Whispers turn to shouts. Miners from nearby pits drop what they're doing and rush toward the Sago Mine. A cloud of anxiety looms overhead, thick and oppressive. Rumors fly like sparks in a darkened room. "They're trapped," one man gasps, his breath visible in the frigid January air. The temperature has dipped, and the bitter chill bites through heavy coats. They can't waste time. Every second counts. Outside the mine, the day is gloomy. Low-hanging clouds threaten snow. A sharp wind cuts through the hillsides, stirring up the scent of damp earth and coal dust. Rescue teams are already assembling, some driven by grim duty, others by the sheer terror of loss. A local official, Tom Honeycutt, stands on a makeshift podium, addressing the swelling crowd. His voice cracks slightly. "We're mobilizing volunteer rescue teams right now. Every minute wasted is a minute they won't have." He pauses, looking at the sea of worried faces. "Let's get to work." Men scramble to don helmets and grab tools, but the gravity of their mission weighs heavily on them. They climb into trucks, their breath clouding in the cold metal cabins. Inside, they exchange uneasy glances, their thoughts racing ahead to the chaos they might find. "Remember, this ain't some routine recovery. It's a rescue," one miner mutters, fingers tapping nervously against his thigh. The weight of his words hangs in the air, a heavy portent of what's to come. As the rescue teams arrive, others can hear the distant rumble of machinery. Huge drills are being brought in, and their engines roar to life. The sound is both reassuring and frightening. It feels like a monster awakening, stirring in the abyss. The early efforts to stabilize the mine are slow. Workers in hard hats pass shovels and pickaxes, their hands chafed and raw. The air fills with the metallic taste of blood and sweat, mingling with the smell of machine oil, and fear. They are pushing into unsteady ground, and each strike of the tools reverberates like a heartbeat. Jeremy Jones, a foreman with decades in the mines, feels the weight of responsibility. "We can't afford any more explosions," he grumbles to his partner Alan Wright. "The last thing we need is to bury them deeper." Alan nods, his face pale and drawn. "Better not let my wife hear me say it, but I've seen safety protocols tossed aside before. It's a damn mess." His voice is barely a whisper, the weight of potentially losing friends trapping him in a vice of dread. The mine's entrance has become a scene of chaos. News reporters arrive, cameras clicking and lights flashing. They aim to capture the unfolding tragedy, but for most, it's too painful to watch. As the teams begin their descent into the mine, the darkness swallows them whole. They navigate the narrow, winding tunnels, flashlights flickering like dying stars against the chiseled stone walls. Each step echoes in the silence, a reminder of what lies ahead. "Don't rush," Jeremy reminds them. "We don't know what's down there." The 10 men squeezing through the passage rely on whispered reassurances. The air grows stale, their breaths mingling with dust and despair. Time feels treacherous. In the cramped tunnels, they switch roles, taking turns to break through the rubble. Each sound of falling rocks sends a chill through them. What if they trigger another collapse? "Is anyone there?" someone calls out, their voice trembling. Only silence answers back, a haunting echo that thrums with despair. Hope flickers and wanes like a candle against the wind. Above, the family members wait on the surface, pacing anxiously. They scan the faces of the rescue teams, searching for signs of life. The scent of smoke from a nearby chimney wafts through the air, a cruel reminder of warmth and safety they yearn for. As minutes stretch into agonizing hours, the cold sinks in, deeper. Shoes get heavier, soaked with melting snow and the damp from the ground. Hands numb from the chill fumble, breath hitching in chests. One volunteer, Matt, pulls out a photo of his daughter. It flutters between numb fingers. He glances at it, a fleeting moment of warmth in the engulfing dark. "I'll see you soon, kiddo," he murmurs under his breath, swallowing down the fear rising like bile in his throat. Yet with every passing minute, the air grows thick with dread. The readings from the atmospheric sensors begin to drop. The team knows supplies are limited, and the miners can't last forever. Another foreman, Will, tries to rally spirits. "We breathe for them. We've got to keep pushing." But they aren't just battling gravity and rock. They're running against the helplessness creeping in like smoke. A nearby miner winces. "You calling it a rescue is just a damn fairy tale," he mutters bitterly, wiping sweat mixed with grime from his brow. "We should have been here earlier." As they break through another barrier, the darkness spills into a larger chamber. Their headlights sweep across the walls, desolation stretching out before them. Damaged equipment sits in disarray, a silent testament to chaos. Then, a muffled sound, a thud, perhaps. The team freezes, hearts racing. Could it be? Is someone alive? "Did you hear that?" whispers Jeremy, signaling for silence. All ears strain now, hoping for another sound. The air feels electric, alive with dormant hope that threatens to break with a single breath. Outside, the waiting crowd grows more restless. As rescue teams work tirelessly in hope, loved ones hold each other tight, sharing quiet pleas with the universe. "Please, just bring them back." Rescue workers exchange glances, each mirroring the worry gnawing at their chests. One asks, "What if they can't hear us?" Matt swallows hard. "We can't stop trying. We won't." And they press on, determined, claws of hope dragging against the edge of despair. Every moment extends, stretching toward the unfathomable. In the pit, the only sounds are the rhythmic breath of weary workers and muffled conversations bubbling through the black void. And then, just as uncertainty looms like a heavy fog, they hear it again. Another faint noise, this time clearer. A voice? "Help!" it calls. The word fractures like glass, both beautiful and chilling. Will's heart races. They're alive. But even as the hope blossoms, an unsettling truth settles in their stomachs. The way ahead isn't clear. The mine is unstable. Time is slipping away, and the weight of fear is pressing down on them, like a vice. In the growing silence, the question hangs heavy in the air. Will they reach them in time, or will the darkness claim more souls? The drip of sweat mingles with the cold air, a constant reminder that every second counts. They gather their resolve. Together, they push toward the unseen depths, racing against the horrors of fate. The clock ticks furiously in their minds as they move forward into uncertainty. Chapter 4. Trapped Underground. The Miners' Struggle. Darkness wraps around them like a dense fog. The only sounds are the distant rumble of settling rock and the erratic breathing of men who know they are trapped. Panic flares, but is quickly quelled by shared glances and unspoken agreements. It feels suffocating, a weight that presses down on their chests, making each breath feel like a struggle. The air is stagnant, thick with the fetid odor of sweat and fear. Dust clings to their skin, mixing with the sharp tang of metal. They are not merely miners, they are survivors, thrust into a nightmare of their own making. Is anyone hurt? John's voice cuts through the blackness. He can almost see the worry etched on the faces of his fellow miners. A weak light glows from a battered lantern, flickering as if it too is holding on for dear life. Just bruises, replies Mike, wincing. I think I can take it. He shifts, trying to find a more comfortable position, against the jagged stone. The cold is creeping in, but the temperature is rising too. A cruel irony. They gather tightly, forming a circle to share what little hope they have left. Each man feels the weight of others' despair. They draw strength from their shared histories. Old jokes resurface, whispered in the darkness, just to break the tension. Remember the time we found that vein of copper? Mike chuckles, the sound hollow. Nick had more dirt on him than the ore. A chuckle ripples through the group, brittle, but there. For a moment, they are not trapped. They are brothers, bonded by a shared past. But as laughter fades, reality crashes back in. A cough echoes, a harsh reminder of the air growing thinner. We need a plan, John says, each word deliberate. We can't stay here, not if we want to see outside again. The idea hangs in the air like a spark. They need to move, but the tunnels are unpredictable, collapsing under the slightest disturbance. Yet, sitting here is equally perilous. Where do we even go? Someone whispers, the tremor in his voice revealing fears of what lies beyond the darkness. No one answers. Each heart beats in synchrony, a silent acknowledgement of an unspeakable truth. The lantern flickers again, casting eerie shadows that dance against the mine walls. Hours flow by, each one heavier than the last. Inside this tomb of stone and dust, hope begins to crumble as rapidly as their surroundings. They huddle close, sharing warmth and a few precious sips of water, hands trembling. Let's ration our air, suggests Carlos, his voice barely audible. If we don't, we might not last until they get us out. He coughs, misting the air with worry. The idea is grim, but it is their only lifeline. They huddle together, inhaling each breath as if it were gold. Each man counts the seconds between breaths, desperate to stretch out the fleeting moments of air. The walls seem to close in as the knowledge gnaws at them. They map out the rough layout of the mine in their minds, portions they could traverse, galleries they could explore while hoping against hope for some sign of rescue. Let's all take turns going deeper in, Mike suggests, his voice shaking but resolute. We might be able to break through to another shaft. John runs a hand through his hair, now damp with anxiety. We can't risk it until we know how stable it is. If it shifts, if another collapse happens. He shakes his head, the vision too dark to consider. Suddenly, a loud thunk echoes through the tunnel, sending a jolt through them all. They freeze, hearts pounding, ears straining for any further sound. Dust rains down, coating their faces, choking the air around them. What was that? The question is gasped, raw nerves exposed. Probably just a rock settling, mutters Carlos, but his eyes betray him, wide, fearful. They all know the truth. Every sound is a reminder that they are at the mercy of an unforgiving earth. Stay calm, John says, but his voice wavers. We need to be rational. If we panic, there's no coming back from it. He remembers his kids waiting for him at home, the bright smiles contrasting the suffocating claustrophobia of the mine. He won't let them down. Not like this. Look around, he continues. There may be something we can use. The men begin to search, feeling along the damp walls, their fingers brushing against gravel and loose rocks. The temperature continues to rise. Each man's breath is a labor, sharp and shallow. Hours drift like shadows, time slipping into obscurity. They share memories and fears. How many of them will get out alive? The faces of family flash in the mind, wives, children, but linger too long on such thoughts, and despair will swallow them whole. John, tell me the kids are okay, Mike says suddenly, his voice cracking. John swallows hard. They're fine. They're waiting for me. His words hang in an empty air, a promise tethered to uncertainty. What if... Mike trails off, eyes cast downward. What if we don't make it out? We will. They'll come for us, John insists, forcing a confidence he doesn't feel. But as the minutes stretch into hours, the heat becomes unbearable. It wraps around them, first a faint embrace, now a suffocating grip. Even their bodies begin to fail, fatigue setting in like a stone. Stomach cramps ripple through them as the last sips of water dwindle to nothing. Just hold on, John whispers. They have to know we're down here. Hope flickers like a dying candle, but outside, time isn't stopping. The world above spins on, unaware of the men wedged beneath layers of earth, fighting a battle against an unseen enemy. We should... Mike starts, gasping for breath. What if we start shouting? No, it'll just waste air, Carlos counters, dread shadowing every word. Maybe. They can hear us, Mike pushes through a shaky breath. Or maybe it brings the roof down, John snaps, the tension snapping tight. We need to think this through. A heavy silence falls again. They exchange glances, the shadows deepening in the flickering light. Each man feels the weight of expectation. Will they rise together or fall apart? Moments stretch, like tendrils of darkness reaching to consume them. Suddenly, a distant thump echoes down the tunnel, a noise that is no longer part of their world. It reverberates through the rock, a harsh clash against their desperate silence. Every breath hangs suspended in disbelief. The men lean in closer, hearts pounding, desperate for clarity. What was that? The whisper trembles through the group, questions looming unanswered. It's coming from... above? John squints into the darkness. An icy shiver runs down his spine. They listen, held captive by the sounds echoing in the void, each one infused with dread. Was it hope or danger? An answer or the finality of despair? A familiar sensation grips them all, the sense that something monumental is shifting above. Then, like a cold gust sweeping through the tunnel, the walls shudder, and their fate hangs in the balance. What now? The air thickens, anticipation building as they grasp for whatever fragments of hope remain. As each mind spirals into the possibilities, one thing is certain: time is no longer on their side. The sound grows louder. Will the rescue come, or will they face the darkness alone? Questions hang in the air, unanswered. Chapter 5. The rescue efforts intensify. The following day dawns cold and grey, as the sun struggles to pierce through the thick blanket of clouds. A sharp wind whistles through the valley, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. Above the Sago Mine, a thrumming anxiety hangs in the air, palpable and suffocating. Families gather, anxiously pacing the gravel lot. A woman clutches a crumpled photograph of her husband. She stares at it, tears frozen to her cheeks. "They'll find him," she whispers, but even she seems unsure. Rescue teams sift through the rubble, their breaths visible in the frigid air, each exhalation a small ghost, a wish. Sounds of machinery whirring and hard hats clanging echo across the site, punctuated by the occasional shout of a supervisor directing the chaos. Over here, dig deeper. Every grunt and groan of effort evokes a shared desperation. The tools scrape against the earth, sending shards of rock tumbling into shadows. Each moment feels like an eternity, a heartbeat stretching into a lifetime. Underground, the miners hold on. Darkness engulfs them. The air is thick with dust and despair, each breath a battle. They strain to hear the clatter of tools above, signs of life, of hope. "They'll come for us," a voice says, but it's laced with an undercurrent of fear. They have to. A flicker of a lighter illuminates their faces, revealing hollowed cheeks and haunted eyes. "We can't stay here," says another miner, his voice trembling. "We need to move. It's our only chance." Meanwhile, hope struggles desperately to survive above ground. Families share whispered prayers, somehow believing that unity will bridge the gap between darkness and light. A man nervously removes his hat, running fingers through unkempt hair. "What if they can't reach them?" "Don't say that," a woman snaps back, clenching her fists. The smell of worry hangs as heavy as the earth pressed down around the miners. Rescue teams work relentlessly. They use drills and explosives, attempting to breach the maze of rock, The vibrations rattle through the ground, mimicking the tremors of fear felt in the hearts of those waiting. Each blast echoes like thunder, sending shudders through the crowd. The noise, it's terrible, a voice mutters from the shadows, cloaked in a parka. What if we're only making things worse? Don't you dare think that way, another man interjects fiercely, fighting against the despair. They're strong, they'll fight, they have to. As the day wears on, the urgency thickens. The rescuers gather in hushed circles, plotting strategies. We need all hands on deck, a foreman declares, his voice steel beneath the pressure. Every minute counts. Those men might not have much time left. The families above cling to fragments of hope, flinching at each blast that shakes the ground. Every rumble reverberates through their bones. A child, mute with confusion, holds a tattered toy, the yellowed fabric stained with time, the warm touch of childhood now overshadowed by cold reality. Hours trickle by. The sun sinks lower, despair spilling like ink against a darkening sky. Rescue workers swap weary glances, their faces smudged with dirt and fatigue. It's getting late, one of them murmurs, the weariness evident in every line of his face. We might need to reassess. Reassess? Another responds incredulously. We can't just leave them. Not now. Not after all this. And yet, in the thick silence that follows, possibility looms. Outside, tensions rise within the waiting crowd, emotions radiating like heat waves from the pavement. One woman wrings her hands, her voice cracking. What's taking so long? In the depths of the mine, the air grows heavier. One miner stirs, the taste of copper in his mouth mingling uncomfortably with the dust. Listen, he says in a hoarse whisper, straining to hear. Do you feel that? The metallic vibration from above is undeniable. The men exchange wary looks. They take a breath. This is it, one soldier says with renewed determination. If we're going to move, it's now or never. Their hearts quicken, the flickering flame of hope igniting into something fiercer. Courage floods their senses as they prepare to push forward, into the unknown. Amidst the chaos, a loud crack nearby shakes the earth, the sound reverberating through the miners' very bones. What was that? A voice shouts, panic threading through the darkness. It came from above, another replies. The fear is immediate, palpable. Back at the surface, the atmosphere is charged with dread. The ground trembles again, and a supervisor looks at his watch, anxiety trailing behind his breath. We need to decide, he announces grimly, a heaviness weighing on his shoulders. We can't keep them waiting. They need to know. Desperation hangs as they gather. What if we told them the truth? Someone suggests, voice trembling. What if we said, they might be gone? The whispers ripple through the families. A murmur rises, a chorus of dread. No, not that. Please, just let them be safe. Time is slipping away, another rescue worker insists. We need to act fast. As chargers hum and drills roar, a new fear erupts. In the stillness under the earth, a crack forms, a silent promise, or a looming disaster. We need to go, a miner screams, terror electrifying his words. Do you hear that? Every heart above and below knows. Choices must be made, life or death as the clock ticks relentlessly onward. At that moment, the earth shifts once more. A rumble travels through the corridors of the mine, deeper than before, accompanied by an ominous shudder felt in the chests of those waiting. Fingers clench around tools and photographs alike. Will hope endure one more hour? Or will the shadows consume their resolve? The reality sets in. The mine holds its breath, waiting, waiting. And then silence falls, heavier than anything ever forged of stone. Chapter 6. Tensions rise, miscommunication and frustration. In the dim light of the command center, worry hangs heavy. Men and women pulse with urgency, their voices a chaotic symphony of hope and despair. Maps scatter, across tables, clashing with hastily written notes. A tape recorder clicks into action. We have reason to believe there may be survivors, a foreman says, but his tone betrays uncertainty. Outside, the wind howls, a chilling spectre creeping through the cracks of the building. Families wait outside, huddled together under frayed blankets. The night air bites at their skin. A mother clutches her child, pretending warmth exists, pretending strength is more than a facade. "Did you hear? They think some of them are still alive," a neighbor whispers, eyes wide with hope. "Still alive," she repeats, incredulous, barely holding back tears. Encouragement, like a flickering candle, dances on the edge of despair. In the gathering gloom, men return from the mine. Their boots clatter heavily on the cement floor. Each step echoes a grim reality. They shed layers of dust-covered clothing, streaked with soot and sweat. Faces drawn tight with fatigue, eyes lined with shadows of fear. "We can't afford to lose hope. Not yet," one says, clenching his jaw as he wipes grime from his forehead. The room stills at his words. The gravity of his insistence weighs heavily. Tension coils like a serpent. Communication slips through hands like sand. Misinformation breeds like weeds. A rumor blossoms, then withers. A message misheard, a misread signal. Fragments of hope can crumble in an instant. "Aye, but hope's a fragile thing," grumbles old Tom, who leans against the wall, arms folded. "You can't count on it in a place like that." His voice, raspy and heavy with regret, cuts through the momentary silence. He's lost too much, seen too much. Hours grind on, each minute stretching painfully. The air becomes thick with anxiety, making it hard to breathe. Families erupt in muted arguments fueled by desperation. How could they trust what little they gather from the mine? No one wants to believe what the foreman can't say. "Gather the men," a voice booms, demanding silence. "We head back down in the morning." The leader's gaze hardens. Dread and determination intermingle like smoke. "There's still a chance. We can't leave them." Outside, wind flays against bare branches, the night deepening into an oppressive shroud. The scent of damp earth rises as rain begins to fall, drawing a curtain of anxiety over the gathering crowd. Inside, a table lays strewn with equipment, radios buzzing with static, flashlights flickering erratically. The hum of machines, an unwelcome reminder of devastating possibilities, fills the air. "We've detected some signals. Sounds consistent with voices," one young engineer announces, but his excitement feels hollow. Comfort is an illusion in the depths of a problem too large to shoulder. "But we can't risk sending anyone down without knowing the conditions." "Not knowing is worse than false hope," someone yells, slamming a fist against the table. Papers scatter. Like fallen leaves, silence follows the outburst, heavy and thick. "There are people down there," another cries. "We owe them everything." The argument rages. Men and women clash, urgency warping into frustration. Two camps arise, one driven by fear, the other fueled by stubborn courage. Both are afraid, but one believes life remains. "We're not leaving, not yet." A voice rises like a flame. "If there is even a chance." But as the hours slip away, hopes tethered to whispers begin to unravel. News of miscommunication ripples through the crowd. A child's heartbeat, once a steady rhythm, quickens with alarm. "Why can't they just tell us the truth?" a man shouts. Desperation festers like an open wound. "We're being strung along." The leader stares through his unyielding resolve, fatigue gnawing at his collar. "We walk a knife's edge between fear and hope. You must trust me." It's the trust that binds them, yet the fear that splinters it, apart. A shaft of truth pierces the night, stubbornly brightening the darkness of the command center. Reports from inside the mine grow more troubling. The temperature drops as miners huddle. Exhaustion wraps them like a blanket. Suddenly, a voice crackles from the radio. "We found something." There's a pause, a gasp almost, the flutter of breath, heavy and strained. "It's bad, so bad." There isn't much time. Panic erupts. Questions morph into accusations, accusations into chaos. "Get the rescue team back together," someone barks, scrambling to the door, driven by an instinct sharper than fear. "Now!" Families, anxious and restless outside, clutch each other tightly, their breaths synchronized, prayers whispered like birds flapping into the dusk. A father stares wide-eyed, fists clenched, reminiscences of laughter echoing in his mind. "Just come back, son, please." But as reality sets in, the ground beneath them appears to shift. Fingers fly over. Devices, attempts to communicate frantically, break against the unyielding barrier of rock and despair. Miscommunication reigns supreme, whispers twisting like smoke, leading men straight into darkness. "Prepare yourselves," the leader finally says, his voice lower, worn, yet commanding. "We need to know if they're still alive." He can feel the weight of uncertainty hanging on his shoulders as he turns, looking at the faces of those who trust him. Outside, the rain turns to sleet, biting against skin, a promising chill beneath the lamp-lit glow. And as despair rolls in, so does a cold realization. Time is slipping through their fingers, and with it, the possibility of life. Then, breaking through the tension, a shout, the voice of a child echoing from the shadows. "Mommy!" A wave of fear washes over. Every face turns. The flickering light illuminates startled eyes, and the air thickens with unspoken dread. What awaits them below? Are they too late? As the trucks rumble into motion, carrying the rescuers deeper into the mine's maw, doubt intertwines with dread. The mine holds its breath, and for those above, holding on to every moment, the question lingers like a spectre in the dark. Were these sounds meant to reassure, or do they herald a disaster beyond comprehension? The mine waits, still and silent, its dark heart ready for what comes next. As the first wave of rescuers descends, one heart-stopping moment settles in. What lies ahead? Chapter 7. A flicker of hope. Communication attempts. Silence envelops the Sago Mine like a suffocating blanket. The air, stale and thick, clings to the miner's skin. It smells of damp earth and the acrid hint of coal dust. Darkness hangs heavy, pierced only by the faintest flickers of hope. The men huddle together in the cramped space, bodies pressed close for warmth. Each man's breath is visible, mingled with the sweat and fear that spills into the cold, unyielding air. Jim gazes at the flickering light of a small oil lamp, its flame trembling as if whispering secrets only they can understand. "We have to let them know we're alive," he urges, his voice hoarse. The hopelessness is palpable. Chet, shivering beside him, nods slowly. "Aye, but how?" His voice wavers, uncertainty slicing through the air. They have only the tools of their trade to send their message: hammer, coal, and will. "Maybe we can signal with the lamp," Jim suggests, his voice wavering like the old flame. "If we can create a pattern." The others gather closer, the flickering light revealing anxious eyes. Sweat-drenched shirts cling to their backs, a cold reminder of the relentless temperature. Joe squints at the lamp, the idea igniting a spark. "We can bang on the walls. The sound will carry." Panic ripples through them. Each man knows the weight of time pushing down. They grasp their tools tightly, a lifeline in the sea of despair. One by one, they begin to strike the jagged walls of the shaft, their hammers ringing out like desperate cries for help. The incessant thud generates a rhythm, almost a heartbeat of their collective fear. With every impact, they send vibrations through the rock, praying to reach the surface, praying someone will hear them. Dust dances in the air, swirling around their heads, mixing with the smoke from the lamp. They push harder, hoping to clear away the fog enshrouding their fates. "Can you hear us?" Jim shouts at intervals, his voice shaky but insistent. Each time, the echoes bounce back, proof that they are still trapped, but alive. "We're down here." The darkness feels heavier with each passing moment as they wait. The distant rush of the earth feels cruel, a reminder of their entrapment. A few men clutch their heads, as though willing the dark to lift, the weight of the impending doom rising. But in those moments of despair, a new idea emerges. Lenny, always the creative one, smiles briefly, the flicker of hope illuminating his tired features. "We've got coal dust. We can make messages." He pulls at the coarse black powder, letting it slip between his fingers, imagining their plea scrawled in this dark medium. "I can draw," he adds, excitement creeping in. Draw what? Joe's voice is skeptical. What good will that do? Lenny glances around, gathering resolve. If we can somehow etch messages on the rock, something visible, they might see it when they dig down. Within moments, coal dust is gathering beneath their dirty fingernails. They press the powder against the walls, forming letters, numbers, anything that might catch the eyes of those who search above. Help us, Lenny writes first, his breath hitching. We're here. As they work together, the panic temporarily subsides. They become a unified front, minds and bodies moving in sync. It's a fragile camaraderie, woven from desperation and shared fears, but it feels significant. It feels human. Suddenly, the hammering stops. A new sound echoes through the mine, distant yet distinct. The high-pitched whir of cutting machinery reaches their ears, mingling with the echoes of their own breaths. The sound spirals through the darkness like an unseen ghost. "Do you hear that?" Chet whispers, as if raising his voice would break the spell. Jim's heart races. "They're digging. They must be looking for us." A surge of energy flows through the group. With renewed vigor, they bang against the walls, their breath quickening in a wild rhythm. They must make their presence known, and they must do so quickly. The vibrations from their efforts compete with the machinery above, the two sounds merging in a chaotic symphony of hope and despair. "Keep going," Jim shouts, the urgency thickening his voice. With each strike, they pour every ounce of their fear and desperation into the walls. Sweat beads on their foreheads, and the lamp flickers dangerously low. They know time is running out. What was once a flicker of hope is now a roaring flame, but hope is a fragile thing, easily extinguished. The sounds from above begin to fade, and dread replaces their excitement. Each man strains to listen through the layers of rock, their faces etched with fatigue and fear. "Maybe they couldn't hear us," Joe mutters, the words a low rumble through the darkness. "We can try again," Chet insists, clenching his fists. "We're not done yet." The tension in the air thickens. Their unity feels delicate, like spun glass hanging by a thread. In this suffocating darkness, exhaustion creeps in. Their breaths grow shallow, fear gnawing at the edges of their resolve. With the lamp dimming, they pause momentarily, scanning each other's faces for strength. "We're not giving up," Jim says, a fierce determination stealing his voice. "We're going to keep fighting." But the moment of silence stretches, morphing into something heavier than the darkness around them. Each man exchanges glances, a whirlwind of emotions pass between them, fear, fury, resignation, and then a sudden crash resonates through the mine, shaking loose dirt from the ceiling. It's a sharp, violent sound, an unwelcome reminder of their fragile existence. "What was that?" Lenny gasps, eyes wide, the sense of dread palpable as it sinks into their stomachs. The vibrations feel like a warning, a deep rumble that passes through their bones. Time is slipping away, but to the men pressed against the cold, unyielding walls, desperation transforms into an unspoken horror. A whisper of doubt trails along with their thoughts. What if no one finds them? A deep inhale threads through them, a collective breath held for fear of what lingers just beyond the edge. The walls of their prison begin to close in, uncertainty creeping back in through the cracks they thought sealed. But they must press on. They have to hold on to the hope ignited by their attempts, however fragile it may seem. It's all they have. As the echoes of the crash fade into the depths, Jim's heart races. He knows the stakes are impossibly high. He straightens, staring at the walls they've scratched, desperate to believe that their messages can pierce through the dark barriers surrounding them. "We're still here," he whispers, almost to himself. "We can't let it end like this." They might be trapped, but they are not silenced, yet. In this battered haven, they grasp at any flicker of resolve that might hold back the encroaching despair. Every tick of the clock is a reminder. Time waits for no one. But just beyond that moment, the grim shadow of darkness waits hungrily as well. And as the echoes of their hammers start to fade, a small, haunting question lingers in the air. Would it be enough? Would anyone hear them in time? The flickering light dims, and the shadows loom closer. Chapter 8. facing reality, the harsh conditions of. In the stench of dust and decay fills the air, oppressive and unyielding. It seeps into their clothes, clings to their skin as they sit huddled together. The flickering light of a single lantern casts long shadows against the walls. Each man within this dark tomb knows things are slipping away. "Is it just me, or is the air getting thinner?" murmurs Tom, his voice barely above a whisper. His chuckle is weak, strained, a facade cracking under pressure. The silence in response is suffocating. They're all too aware. Outside, the world continues. Life goes on beyond the mine, but here, time has stopped. A sinking feeling gnaws at the corners of each man's mind. It has been days, and still, no sign of rescue. The muffled sounds of drilling echo like a far-off dream, a distant hope fading fast. The temperature in the mine has plunged. The damp cold seeps into their bones. Hands shake from the chill, but the ore-ridden walls provide no comfort. They huddle closer, sharing body heat, one man's breath mingling with another's. It's a mix of desperation and camaraderie, each feeling the brunt of reality crashing down. "I can't take it anymore," mutters Frank, his fingers trembling at his side. "What if we're never found? What then?" The weight of his words hangs heavy, a bell tolling in the silence. No one answers. Outside, the heavens glow, snowflakes lit up by the grim light of the moon. They dance in the air, beautiful and serene, while below ground, warmth is a memory. The chill tattoos itself onto their skin. Above, the world is oblivious. Below, the darkness envelops. Each breath feels like a whisper of panic as they realize how precious their supply is. The air is thick with tension, stifling, pressing against their chests. It becomes a traitor, and they fight against the build-up. "I'm starting to think we should ration," injects Mike, trying to keep the momentum of hope alive. "Just a little longer until they break through." His voice carries a hint of urgency, yet they all know the truth. A frown dances on Tom's brows. What if they don't? What if we're stuck? The word hangs between them, like a damning verdict. The unspoken fear that clutches at their throats binds them tighter, each heartbeat a reminder of their mortality. An hour stretches into an eternity. The only sound is the silence, heavy, palpable, punctuated by coughs that seem to echo endlessly. They do their best to conserve breath, the moment hauntingly intimate yet isolating. The flickering lantern stutters against the creeping darkness, casting odd shapes, shadows of men more ghost than flesh. "Keep it together, fellas," whispers Bill, a thread of bravado punctuating his tone. "We survived before. We can do it again." But even Bill can't mask the tremor of doubt in his voice. The water, once a source of comfort, now a method of survival, has dwindled. Each man clenches a dry throat, longing for a drop, any drop. The grit of dirt between their teeth becomes unbearable. They awake to the bitterness of reality creeping in. How many days have passed? They no longer know. With each beat, exhaustion deepens. They watch one another, body language screaming what words cannot say. There's a resignation in Frank's slumped shoulders, a haunting stillness in Mike's gaze as he stares at something only he can see. This isn't merely waiting, it's a creeping surrender. The acoustics of the space shift, whispers amongst the rocks, threats of collapse living in the walls. It's a reminder that this space is alive, mangry and hungry for something, perhaps for those who dared to disturb its ancient layers. The breaths they draw become measured, cautious, as if each intake could disturb the precarious dance of survival. "I heard something last night," says Tom suddenly, his voice cracking the oppressive gloom. Panic laces through the air like electricity. "I thought I was dreaming, but it felt real." "What was it?" Frank asks, alarm lacing his tone, as hope fights against despair. "Just a noise, like a rumble. Couldn't tell if it was up above or—" Tom's words falter. Fear clenches his throat. The others fall silent, their imaginations igniting in the absence of certainty. The weight of claustrophobia wraps around them like a shroud. The walls seem closer today. Each sound reverberates through the confined space, Aisait's heartbeat of dread. The thin layer of trust they cling to feels like sand slipping through their fingers. They've become weary shadows, waiting for ghostly fingers to reach out and snuff them out. The flicker of the lantern begins to dim, and the dark pushes in. Hours crawl onward. A drop of sweat snakes down Bill's brow. His shirt clings uncomfortably to his skin. We need to stay strong, he tries once more. They'll come for us. They have to. But as silence wraps its tendrils around them, even Bill's bravado begins to wither. The flickering light becomes a desperate reminder of the life they once knew. Outside, the wind howls against the mountain, a sharp contrast to their stillness. They listen to that wind, heartbeats synchronizing with its rhythm. In every gust, there's a promise of rescue, though with each moment it fades, dragging shadows with it. Once strategic high hopes flicker like dying embers. Reality pulls tighter around their throats. They are not just suffocating from the air, they're wrestling with despair, every man feeling the pain of separation from the world above. The waiting ceases to become a ritual of anticipation, and instead becomes a prison, each man trapped within his thoughts, fighting a losing battle against the growing sense of hopelessness. It seeps in like the cold, wrapping around their extremities, their hearts. And then suddenly, a loud crack reverberates through the space, shaking the very core of their existence. They freeze, breath halting as they search the faces of one another. "What was that?" Tom gasps, the fear now palpable as tension ignites. The walls seem to tremble, the darkness now alive. It has become a living entity. If they don't heed its warning, it could swallow them whole. "Stay calm. Everyone, hold still," Bill commands, but his own voice shakes, mirroring the tremors in the earth. They listen. Another crack, louder this time, laced with menace. Dust falls from the ceiling, a shower of tiny particles rained down like the debris of their hopes and dreams. If this is a warning, how long until it becomes reality? They exchange terrified glances. The stakes rise, reality becomes sharper, and their whispers shatter against the growing darkness. As the lantern flickers one last time, they brace for what might come next. Is this the collapse they've been waiting for, or just the beginning of their reckoning? The air thickens. Silence tumbles into chaos, wrapping tight around all of them. In this moment of uncertainty, one question looms large. Will they face a fate of entrapment, or a desperate fight for survival? They hold their breath, anticipating the next moment, the dark curtain finally about to lift. Chapter 9. The search turns fatal, discovering the miners. Cold fingers of dawn creep across the sky on January 4th, 2006. The rescue teams gather in the faint light, their breaths visible as they huddle together, faces drawn tight with anxiety. The air bites at their skin, a harsh reminder of their purpose. Inside the Sago Mine, 33 hours have passed since the collapse, and hope flickers like a candle in a windstorm. Rescue workers maneuver through debris, their helmets clinking softly against the jagged rocks. A dull thud reverberates as they strike the encroaching darkness. They press on, guided by delicate whispers of survival. Each step kicks up a cloud of dust, tasting of coal and despair. "Keep it steady, boys," a supervisor rasps, his voice gravelly from the dry mine air. "We've got to hear something." The men nod, each heart pounding with equal parts dread and determination. They dig deeper, hands trembling against cold metal, clawing away the remnants of twisted steel and crumbled earth. Somewhere in the darkness, they sense the weight of lives suspended, hovering between existence and oblivion. Suddenly, a muffled sound echoes back, cries, or maybe just a trick of the mind. The rescuers freeze, straining to listen. Their hearts synchronize, thudding loudly in the silence. It's a rhythmic pulse of adrenaline, a flicker of hope. "Did you hear that?" a young volunteer whispers, eyes wide with anticipation. "Stay sharp. We're not out of the woods yet," another cautions, wiping sweat from his brow. The minute stretches. The air hangs heavy, thick with the fragrance of fear. They press their ears against the cool rock, the chill seeping through their clothes. And then, faintly, a voice emerges, a rasping, broken sound. It's not just any voice, it belongs to Randall McCloy, the only miner still alive. "Yes, Randall," a rescuer shouts, the words spilling from his lips, unable to contain the rush of relief. But even this joy is tinged with gravity. They know, with sickening certainty, that the others are gone. Every heartbeat feels like an echo through the hollow mine. Randall's voice cuts through the air, filled with desperation. "Help. Me." The plea carries the weight of the world. They rally, driven by a sense of urgency. The air grows stale, and the clock ticks away, the seconds in heavy silence. With new determination, they carve a path, the tools biting into the earth like hungry animals. The walls close in around them, squeezing the last breaths of hope. "We're coming, Randall. Just hold on." Another howls, his voice cracking. But the close quarters of the cave amplify their fears. With every swing of the pickaxe, dread settles deeper. What happened to the others? The men press ahead, despite the apprehensions clawing at their minds. Deeper they go, the oppressive darkness wrapping around them like a shroud. Each passing moment is a reminder of their own mortality, and the continued futility of the situation gnaws at their resolve. When they finally reach him, the sight is harrowing. Randall lies trapped beneath the oppressive weight of rubble and darkness, the light barely touching him. His skin is pale, a stark contrast against the black trapped around him. One eye remains open, glazed over with the glassy manifestation of his ordeal. "Randall, we've got you," one rescuer whispers, kneeling beside him. The words sound hollow, reverberating in the cavern of their minds. Did you find them?" McCloy coughs, his voice rasping, heavy with despair. They exchange glances, a silent understanding passing between them. The grim truth hangs low, thickening the air. "Randall, we need to get you out. We'll talk later," one says, forcing the words out, knowing the weight of his message would crush even the strongest heart. The team springs into action, working furiously to free him from the tomb that surrounds him. Each tremor of the earth feels like an insult, as if the mine itself is reluctant to give up its secrets. And then the reality crashes down like an avalanche. As they clear the last of the debris, a sickening realization dawns. The emptiness of the mine grows heavier. Randall is alive, but the others? The tension thickens. Heartbeats reach a deafening crescendo as Randall's breaths grow slower, barely a whisper. "Please tell me they're okay." A rescuer swallows hard, the knot in his throat threatening to choke him. "We'll get you out first, Randall. That's what matters." But the truth is unspoken, the way it lingers in the air, hanging like the unwelcome weight of an iron chain. The team's faces twist with sorrow, a reflection of the rising sun that now feels like a cruel taunt. They hoist Randall upright, a pulse of effort surging as they carry him back through the treacherous path they had just navigated. But every step feels like a betrayal. He is alive, yet the others lie in silence, shadows forever snagged in the dark corners of the mine. Outside, the world bursts with daylight, the brightness almost blinding after hours of oppressive darkness. But the light does not bring joy. Instead, it feels like a spotlight on the anguish that bubbles beneath the surface. The press of anxious media groups and worried families only adds to the overwhelming atmosphere, a bitter reminder of their shared tragedy. As they peel Randall away from his dark prison, his eyes search the faces of the rescuers, silently pleading for answers they are unwilling to give. Each face turns solemn, the weight of grief crashing over them like the mine shaft that had sealed their fate. "Where are the others?" Randall's voice quakes, carrying the brittle fragility of hope like a broken bird. The air around them thickens with unspoken sorrow. Nobody wants to answer. The truth hangs heavy. Outside, the biting wind cuts through layers of clothing, but it feels like a mere chill compared to the icy grip of loss. One of the rescuers finally breaks the silence, his voice barely a whisper. There were 6 others, but they didn't make it." The words fall like lead, impossible to absorb. Randall's face shows disbelief, then horror, then despair. The world around him spins in blurred confusion. He feels the biting cold, yet the coldest sensation settles in his chest, its shadow deepening with every realization. Not a word of comfort can pierce the shroud of grief that envelops the rescuers now. Hearts ache for losses they can't even begin to fathom. Each of the fallen had been someone's loved one, someone's friend, and now they were trapped forever in the dark. As Randall is carried further away from the mine, the whispers of the dead seem to echo behind him. Each step leads him away from a piece of his life, a life filled with laughter and brotherhood, now overshadowed by tragedy and dark memories. "Why didn't you save them?" His eyes seem to scream, searching desperately for answers that are forever out of reach. The rescuers look away, closing ranks with their own grief. Their silence is all the answer he needs. The sun rises higher, casting long shadows over the faces of the grieving families gathered outside the mine. The bright daylight feels incredulous against their mourning. Bands of silence wrap around them, weaving through shudders of unyielding sorrow. Behind them, the mine looms large, a gaping mouth slowly swallowing their hope. The world continues to spin on its axis, but for those touched by this tragedy, time stands still. Randall's body trembles, fragile beneath the weight of loss, and the question of how the dear lives lost can be acknowledged haunts the air. Eyes search for solace in a world stripped of certainty. As the sun begins its slow descent, a dark shadow crosses Randall's face. This cold reality is only the beginning, and as the final rays flicker and fade, the question looms heavy in the air. What will it take to truly understand the cost of that day, the weight of loss that will echo through the community forever? One thing is certain, the search may have turned fatal, but the haunting memories will never fully depart. The darkness they uncovered may have displaced hope, but it also brought the harsh truth that hangs over them like a relentless spectre. In the silence, something far more profound begins to challenge them. The truth stirs, waiting to explode, and it leaves the haunting promise that this story is far from over. Chapter 10. Aftermath and Investigation. Lessons Learned. The silence in the mountains is unnerving. It's almost as if the world holds its breath, waiting for what will come next. Outside the Sago Mine, the air is thick with sorrow. Family members of the trapped miners gather, their faces lined with worry and disbelief. Each tick of the clock sends a ripple of dread through the crowd. Hope dwindles with the day. Inside the mine, darkness lingers. The aftermath of the explosion has left twisted metal and shattered dreams in its wake. Teams of rescue workers, covered in soot and exhaustion, comb through the detritus. They search for survivors, but the air is acrid and still. The reek of burnt coal mingles with the metallic tang of blood. "We'll find them. We have to," an officer grunts, eyes hard. His voice is laced with determination, yet it trembles under pressure. It's a cruel lie they tell themselves, but it's the only thing holding the despair at bay. In the days that follow, the stories emerge. Survivors recount those frantic moments, the blast echoing like thunder. "It was like hell unleashed," whispers one man, his face pale and haunted. "Nothing could prepare us." His voice is raw, choked with the enormity of the loss. Rescue attempts turn to recovery. Outside, reporters swarm, capturing the scene, the grieving families, the weary workers. The cameras flash, illuminating shadows, but none can pierce the heavy blanket of grief. The sound of whispered prayers fills the air like a chilling hymn. Then come the investigations. The buzz of machinery and the low murmur of voices fill the makeshift command center set up in a nearby building. Teams of inspectors, clad in hard hats and safety vests, sift through reports and witness accounts. They're on a mission, not just to identify what went wrong, but to unearth the skeletons hidden beneath the surface. Scribbled notes fill pages. A lack of safety protocols, one inspector reads aloud, frustration clear in his tone. "We should have done better." He rubs the back of his neck, struggling to reconcile the tragedy with the negligence that led to it. The investigative team splits into smaller groups. Some focus on the machinery, others on potential safety violations. Every detail counts. "Find out what were they doing just before the explosion," a senior official commands, his voice piercing through the chaos. Every second matters. Cold winter wind whips the outdoor scene as news spreads quickly. Legislators gather, their voices thunder against the backdrop of broken lives. They hold meetings, trying to weave new regulations from the ashes of tragedy. "We cannot let this happen again," declares one politician, eyes set with fire. "We must ensure the miners return home safe." The reality of the miners' lives haunts the discussions. They work under conditions few would endure. Light dwindles, yet still they descend into the darkness, facing unseen dangers. And now, with the public's outcry echoing, there's a chance for change. As eyewitness accounts flood in, a picture of complacency begins to emerge. Workers recall the whispers. Emergency drills that were cut short. Warnings ignored. "Nobody listened," says a miner, his voice heavy with memory. "We all felt it coming." Subtle tensions rise as fingers point and blame circulates like smoke in the tunnels. The operators of the Sago Mine stand firm, but the heat is on. Anxiety sparks heated exchanges in hushed corners. A manager mutters, "They're just looking for someone to blame." In the ongoing investigation, experts inspect safety protocols. They uncover shocking truths. Ventilation systems that were supposed to keep toxic gases at bay were inefficient, neglected. "You don't always smell the danger until it's too late," a safety analyst remarks flatly. Families sit on the edges of their seats as they watch the developments unfold on their small television screens. Every report brings a flash of hope, followed by an agonizing wait. "Do you think they'll fix it?" a mother whispers to her husband. Her eyes are red and weary. The question hangs heavy in the space between them. Days bleed into weeks, and with each passing moment, the community grapples with its newfound reality. Mourning becomes a collective entity, stitched together by shared grief. But from the depths of their sorrow, an ember of resolve begins to glow. "We won't forget them," one miner's widow vows defiantly. "We need to make sure this never happens again." Investigations yield recommendations. The recommendations are bold, but how will they hold up in the face of established interests? Deep-seated practices are hard to uproot. The wall of resistance rises, with industry leaders lamenting potential costs. Change is a risk, they argue, eyes narrowing. In a climactic moment, the federal agency steps forward. They announce a series of changes: mandatory ventilation upgrades, stricter enforcement of safety regulations. "This is our reckoning," the head of the agency proclaims with steely resolve. "From now on, safety comes first." But will this commitment stick? Feet shuffle in uncertainty as some hold the heaviness of an industry unwilling to bend. Will the lessons learned be swept under the rug, or will they carve a path forward? Families continue to gather at the memorial site. Candles flicker against the night air. With hopeful hearts, they cling to the promise of change. As they speak the names of lost loved ones reverently, there's a call for accountability echoing in their words. Down a corridor in the local courthouse, officials prepare for a hearing. The tension is palpable. Outside, a storm brews. Lightning dances across the sky, mirrored in the jagged silhouettes of the mountains. The deep rumbling grows, intertwining with the anguish and fear that simmer just below the surface. As the hearing begins, a question lingers pungently in the air. Will justice be served, or will the voices of the miners and their families fade silently into the shadows? The future remains uncertain, but the battle for their memories and safety has only just begun. And in that moment, as the gavel strikes, a single thought cuts through the chaos, a haunting echo of the past, asking, how many more lives will it take before they finally listen? In the dark depths of the mind, horror fuses with hope. The tension between them winds tighter, each breath feeling weighty. The answer hangs tantalizingly close, dangling like a flickering candle about to be snuffed out. The fight for justice is just beginning. Legacy of the Sago Mine disaster. The air hangs heavy with memories of that bitter January day in 2006. It was a day when deep within the earth, darkness engulfed a group of miners. The echoes of their last conversations still resonate among the cold, stony corridors of the Sago Mine. Families held their breath, clinging to hope as rescue teams battled time. The minutes turned into agonizing hours, and what should have been a return to safety morphed into a struggle against an unforgiving fate. The stark reality of the lives extinguished shapes our understanding of sacrifice. 11 miners were swallowed by the mine's embrace, their futures snuffed out before they had a chance to see the dawn again. Talk is cheap, but the real weight was the silence that followed. The wickedness of fate had chosen those men, transforming them into symbols, heroes, and ghosts, both lost and found. As the dust settled, the aftermath revealed more than just tragedy. It exposed deep fissures in mining regulations. The Sago disaster became an urgent cry for change. Safety protocols, once overlooked, were thrust into the stark spotlight of scrutiny. Mine operators faced a reckoning, and the laws governing worker safety began to shift like the very earth they tread upon. But these changes came at a cost that was not just measured by legislation. Lives forever altered by grief stood in the shadow of new frameworks. Each family bore the weight of their loss. They carried it like a stone in their pocket, an unwelcome reminder of what had been taken. The survivors, marked by the trauma of that day, now shared a bond forged in the furnace of despair. "I don't know how to do this without him," a widow whispered to the darkened room, her voice barely above a breath, each word layered with the heaviness of unanswered questions. They turned to each other for strength, yet each glance reminded them of their hollow spaces, the chairs around the table forever vacant. Yet, amidst this pain, arose an unyielding resilience. Communities rallied, united by the haunting spectre of shared loss. Fundraisers sprouted like wildflowers after a storm, each gesture reminding the departed they were not forgotten. Signs with names of the lost became part of the landscape, memorializing their lives, each letter etched in sorrow, but also in gratitude for the time they had shared. Buried deep in the rubble of grief were moments of humanity. A miner's daughter, clutching her father's old helmet, spoke to her classmates about heroism, her voice steady, but her heart trembling. "We are not just waiting for change," she said, her determination echoing like a rallying cry. The legacy wasn't merely about the lost, it was also about not repeating the mistakes of the past. As legislation transformed, the fires of change flickered across boardrooms where decisions were made behind closed doors. The goal was to make mines safer, revamping communication protocols so no message was lost in the abyss of catastrophe. Still, the ghosts of Sago whispered an uncomfortable truth. Safety measures alone can't prevent tragedy. The very core of Sago's legacy remains a stark reminder of our fragility. It leaves an imprint on our collective consciousness, highlighting the razor-thin line that separates life from death. We become ever more aware that beneath our feet, the earth can be both a provider and a predator. In reflecting on the lives forever altered, we must ask ourselves, are we truly willing to honor their memory by embracing vigilance and compassion? Awareness is key. The fight for safety remains unyielding. Each step forward in mining practices is a tribute, a solemn pledge to those who fell beneath the earth's weight. And just as their memories linger in the dark, we find ourselves staring into the abyss, knowing that this darkness could emerge again. Will we be ready, or will we wait until it is too late again? If this history has left its mark on you, leave a like. It tells me you survived the journey. Drop a comment below. I want to know what part of this story haunted you most. And prepare yourself for our next dark tale, where the echoes of history reveal the hidden horrors lurking in the shadows of forgotten places.